Okay, here's today's shoulders and tricep workout. I always start out with rear delts, just in my older age, just an easy way to kind of lube up the joint, get everything warm. And also, if you're competing, I think rear delts are probably the most important head of the shoulder because the rear delt is actually what sticks out the farthest in most of the front and rear poses. So if you want width, rear delts are what's going to give it to you. I did 3 heavy-ish sets here. I think this is my last set with the 75s. They were a bit heavy. The form was a little sloppy, but I always try to go, at least on the last set, maybe a little heavier than necessary. Next movement was shoulder press. Usually I start with laterals, but my shoulders have been feeling pretty good lately, so after rears I went right to shoulder press. I'm still finishing up my cruise, so my strength isn't at my peak level, but this was a decent set for me. As you can see, I'm dealing with left shoulder problems, some nerve issues, and so that it's really always my left arm that fails. My right arm can typically get another rep when my left arm fails, but I don't do very many barbell movements right now because I'm trying to make sure that left arm gets as much work as possible. With the barbell movement, you kind of have the potential to let that right arm dip down a little bit to take more of the strain, and you'll see people doing it, especially young lifters on a bench press. The bar will lift uneven, the left side will go up first, then the right side will follow, and it just really creates more imbalance. So I'm trying to prevent that as much as possible while I deal with this long-standing shoulder issue. This is a triple drop set here, starting with 4 plates aside, dropping all the way down to 3 plates. I was just going to repeat whatever I did for the first set, each other set. So I only got 5 reps the first set. So each set after that, I do 5 reps and just as little rest as possible, just as go around and drop the plates as fast as I can. I haven't been adding a lot of intensity amplifiers like drop sets or rest pause lately, partly because I was on a cruise, I guess. And before that, I was just really focusing on improving my single set strength, I guess, without any additional recovery taxing things. But I think I'm going to start adding more drop sets, rest pause type sets and things like that, at least as long as my recovery allows. This is the time of year where I'm not as busy with coaching sports and things like that, so I have more time to train, I have more time to focus on recovery, and I have more time to eat better. So you can see this time I go around the other way because I was getting a little dizzy. That's another thing that happens when you're 40. You used to be able to spin around as a kid for hours, where now I take 2 turns in the same direction and I'm already ready to throw up. So here's the last set here, and this one is pretty light. I might have actually did more than 5 reps for the it looks like I just went more controlled and tried to squeeze. And you see, if you push your head forward like that, it actually kind of changes the focus of the movement and turns it more into behind the neck press. It makes it a little more difficult for me. So I was just kind of trying to find any way I could do to make the 5 reps hard on that last set so I don't pump out a bunch of crappy reps. Next movement here is cable laterals with the cable in front of my body. I'll do these both ways, with the cable in front of my body and with the cable behind my body. With the cable in front like this, you're actually kind of getting a little bit of trap in rear delt because you're not really pulling in a straight side. Especially when you bring the handle all the way down, you can see my shoulder kind of rotate in front of my body a little bit. And I don't really mind that. I'm shoulder dominant. So where most people with laterals are trying to focus really more on their side delts, I'm really not so much. I don't mind if my traps get a little work in there because my traps have always dramatically lagged behind my shoulder development. And the shoulders have always just grown really easy for me. So I've trained with people who aren't shoulder dominant, who seem to get really frustrated with my lateral form, I guess, because I don't really, use the type of form or really the type of focus that someone who isn't shoulder dominant would need to do to keep their traps out of the movement. But that's just the way I'm built. I have to really work, even on a shrug, to get my traps to work. For whatever reason, on any movement my whole life, my shoulders want to take over any pressing movement, any back movement. And you can even see, if I'm not wearing a sweatshirt, on some of my back videos, you'll see my rear delts and even rhomboids kind of overpower my traps, which is something I don't usually see on people. It's not something I like, but it's something that I've always dealt with. And now this one is this is really more a pure side delt movement, even though it looks like a front raise. And I've talked about this in a number of videos. Because if you look at my arm, the side of my arm, so the exact side of between my bicep and triceps is pointing straight up and down, then that's really where the side of the delt is. And so when people think like side delt visually, like what's out to the most wide part of your body is closer to the rear delt. It's actually your side delt, which is ready to go, the part that ties into the side of your arm. In a lot of the movements, you're almost doing more of a front raise to target that. Now on to triceps. Here's a mechanical drop set, and so I'm just taking advantage of leverages to extend the set. I start the set with a cable way out in front of me, and so my elbows are in front of my shoulders, and what's that doing? It's forcing, there's tension of pulling the humerus towards my head, which activates the long head of the tricep more. That's one of the actions of the long head. And then as you getting closer to failure, you step closer to the bar. My elbow doesn't stay as far of my shoulder anymore, so I take away some of the strain of the long head and move it to the lateral head. And then towards the end, I keep stepping closer until my elbows are behind my shoulder, actually, and now this is almost purely lateral head. And then here at the very end with my elbows out, it's almost like a close grip bench press, and it's purely lateral head and maybe some medial head right near the meat of the elbow. And that's just a mechanical way to increase the duration of a set. Here's my old standby, my favorite tricep movement. Nothing builds the long head of the tricep better than this. And this is another triple drop set form. You see I'm keeping my hands apart at the top, at the positive and the negative portion of the motion. And that takes away all leverage. And so each arm's kind of working independently. And as I start reaching failure that way, I'll put my hands together on the positive portion of the motion, which gives me a little bit better leverage. And since you're always stronger on the eccentric portion, I'll keep them apart on the way down until that starts to get towards failure, coming up here in a second. And then I'll start banging out sets, just partials with my hands together the whole time, taking advantage of as much leverage as I can.